Good morning, good afternoon. Yeah, I think it's one of those. But anyway, hopefully you're having a good day nonetheless, whether it's the morning or the afternoon, depending on when you're watching this video. Today is Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020, and we are going to be continuing our discussion on inequalities, how to solve them and how to graph them on a number line. All right. Now, if you missed yesterday's introduction to inequalities, I will be sure, I promise you, I will be sure to leave a link for you where the resources are available for extra practice. Okay, so more than likely, I'll leave it up there. So that way you could just click onto it, or I might leave it at the end. But it's going to be left so where you can see it. All right. So again, we're going to get started. We're not going to prolong this any longer. The first thing I want to do is I want to review or actually go over a couple of problems that we actually started on yesterday. I know y'all can't see it because I can't see it. So let me make this bigger so that way we all can see it. All right. So I just want to do a couple of these. I'm not going to do the entire sheet. Let me see. We'll probably just do all the way up until 10, and then we're going to jump into solving one-step inequalities and two-step inequalities and all of that fun stuff. So we getting ready to get it started. All right. So let me pull out my toolbar here. Hey, toolbar. All right. And we're just going to go ahead and get started. All right. So for number 4, these are simply just the answers. I wanted to just start off with just a regular graphing inequalities. That will give you practice on how to determine if you have an open circle or a closed circle, and then which direction your line is going to be going. So these are just numbers, or some of them are decimals. But remember, it doesn't matter if they're numbers, decimals, fractions, positive or negative. The rule still applies and it stays the same. Okay, so that's very important. All right, so looking at number 4, this is read as 7 is greater than or equal to, I'm going to write that, equal to x. Okay, so what they're saying is 7 is the bigger number, basically. Okay, so yesterday we talked about the differences between an open circle and what it means, and a closed circle or a shaded circle and what that means. Okay, so what I have is this. Because I have a greater than sign or equal to, remember they are both entities, they go together. They're not a separate entity. Okay. That means I'm going to have a shaded circle or a closed circle. And I'm going to put that over my 7. The reason why, again, that I have a shaded circle or a closed circle is because when I read this inequality, I am reading it as 7 is greater than or equal to 7. And the last time I checked, 7 is always equal to 7. Okay. So that's the reason why 7 is shaded on the number line, because it's included as the answer. Okay. Now, we have to determine which way our the direction of our line, where is it going? Is it going to the left or is it going to the right? So at this point, what you would do, you are going to pick any number from the number line. So Mr. McFadden, I want you to pick any number from the number line for number 4.
12.
12. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I am going to substitute 12 for the letter X. So when I do that, this is what I have. So then, I don't know why this thing is doing this. Okay. So then we ask the question, is 7 greater than or equal to 12?
No.
No. So because that is incorrect and that is not a true statement, that means 12 is not a solution, which means anything to the right of 7 would not be a solution. So none of these numbers that I have underlined here would be a solution. I'm going to put a sad face to let you all know that those are not the right answers. So therefore, any number to the left would be a solution. So I could say 7 is greater than or equal to 7, which is true because 7 is equal to 7. 7 is greater than or equal to 6. That is true because 7 is greater than 6. Okay, so any number. Okay, we have someone else that's joining us. So as always, let me acknowledge the student. Good morning. I think we had somebody, but if not, that's okay. All right. So just remember, all of the decimals, the fractions, everything that is to the left of 7 would be my solution. Okay. Now, number 5 looks pretty interesting, but it's an easy fix though. All right. So remember, I always say that math is very repetitive, meaning you're going to apply certain kinds of concepts to different things, or same things will be presented to you in different formats. This is actually no exception. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because we can never, ever, ever in life have a negative variable. Okay. So when we talked about solving one-step equations and two-step equations and things of the like, and if you ended up with a negative variable, you can't have that. It's okay for your number, your fraction, your decimal. It's okay for those to be, negative, but your letter cannot be negative. So what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to multiply everything you see here by -1. Because again, going back to integers, a negative multiplied by a negative gives us a positive. So when I do that, oh, this looks familiar. It kind of looks like the distributive property. So you keep that in mind as well. So when I multiply -1 times -c, I am now going to have c. C is now positive. When I multiply -1 times a +2, that is going to give me a -2. Now, this is where the rules come in. When you multiply by a negative number or divide by a negative number as it relates to inequalities, you must flip the sign. Okay? So instead of me having -c is greater than 2, I now have c is less than -2. Okay, so I will explain that again. I cannot have a negative variable. And remember, the variable is just the letter. So I can never, ever have a negative letter. So what I would have to do in order to make my letter positive, I would simply have to multiply everything I see here by -1. When I multiply or divide by a negative number, as it relates to inequalities, your sign must be flipped. Okay? So when I multiply -1 times -c, I got a positive c. When I multiplied my -1 times a +2, that gave me a -2. Because I am multiplying by a -1, my greater than sign is now flipped to a less than sign. Okay, so hopefully it actually will make more sense when we start talking about the one-step equations and two-step equation, not equations, one-step inequalities and two-step inequalities. And we're going to talk about those in a moment. All right, so this is what I'm going to use now to figure out which way my line is going, which direction I got to go. So Mr. McFadden, I would like for you to pick a number off the number line for number 5. Oh. Hi. Is someone joining me?
Yes, Miss Philomena.
Good afternoon, Miss Philomena. How are you?
I'm good.
That's wonderful. Okay. You said -2.
Well, okay. -4.
-4. Okay. So for number 5, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to replace C for -4. Okay. So, and again, you do not have to write out all of these particular steps, but again, I just want to break it down and show you how it would look. Okay. So is -4 less than -2?
Yes.
That is true. So
it's closer to 0.
That's right. Excellent job, Mr. McFadden. You remembered. Because remember, when you are dealing with two negative numbers, as it relates to comparing them with less than or greater than, those inequalities, the number that's closest to 0 is the greater number. So I now have an open circle. The reason why I have an open circle is because I only have a greater than sign, which has turned into a less than sign, but -2 is not included as a part of my solution. Okay. And because Mr. McFadden has just proven that -4 is less than -2, that means all of my numbers to the left of -2 will suffice. So I'm just going to draw my arrow. And I'm going to shade it in. Okay. All right. So we're just going to shade those guys in there. All right. And I'm going to switch colors because, nothing against red. I just, just like to switch it up, All right. So we have a couple more problems to do, and then we are going to jump into one-step inequalities and two-step inequalities for today. Okay. So now we're down to number 6. Number 6 says -1.5 or -1/2, if you like fractions, is greater than or equal to, so I'm going to underline that, greater than or equal to -b. Now, number 6 is just like number 5. We have a negative variable. We cannot have that. So that means I am now going to multiply everything by -1. All right, so let me put that up here. Okay, I'm going to multiply everything by -1. So when I multiply -1 times -1.5, I am going to get 1.5. Okay. And then when I multiply -1 times -d, I am going to get a positive d. That is what I want. I want my variable to be positive. Now, because I multiplied again by a negative number, this greater than or equal to sign has now been flipped to a less than or equal to sign. Okay. So, because I have a less than or equal to sign, that means I now have a shaded circle. This again lets me know that 1.5, and I'm going to write that here. Okay, 1.5 is a part of that solution because 1.5 is less than or equal to 1.5. 1.5 is equal to 1.5. So that is the reason why that particular circle is shaded. Now, I'm going to pick a number off the number line, any old number. Let me just go with 2, just for the sake of conversation. Now I'm going to say 1.5 is less than or equal to 2. That is a true statement. So because that's a true statement, I know that any number to my right, to the right of 1.5, would make it true, would make this whole inequality true. Okay. All right. All right. So far so good with everybody. We're almost done, and we are going to again go into the 1-step and 2-step inequalities. Okay. All right. Number 7, we have the same situation going on here. All right. So again, we're just going to multiply everything by -1. Okay. When I multiply by -1 times -g, that is going to give me a positive g. -1 multiplied by -3, that gives me a positive 3. Because I'm, again, multiplying by a negative number, this sign, which is greater than or equal to, will be flipped to less than equal to. Okay? So now the question I have is, do I have an open circle or do I have a shaded circle? And where is my circle going to be? Anybody can answer. Okay. I have a shaded circle over 3. The reason why I have a shaded circle over 3 is simply because 3 is equal to 3. Remember, the line under the inequality sign denotes equal. So when I put 3 in place of G, the inequality will read as 3 is less than or equal to 3, and 3 is equal to 3. So therefore, 3 would be a solution for this particular inequality. Okay. So now what I have is this. I'm going to pick a number. I'll go with 0. You can never go wrong with 0, right? So I am now going to say 0 is less than or equal to 3. That is a true statement because 0 is less than or equal to 3. So because 0 is less than or equal to 3, that means any number to my left would serve as a solution. Okay. 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 Just gonna color that there. Just do that right there. All right. Okay. Now we're going to move along to number 8. Excuse me. All right. So we're going to move along to number 8, and I am going to go ahead and switch colors here. Let's see. I don't know why I'm feeling like I'm in like a pinkish mood, but I'll go with this pink. All right. Again, we have a negative variable. So that means we're going to have to multiply by -1. All right. So I have a -1 times -2.5, and that is going to give me a positive 2.5. Okay. A -1 times the negative n is going to give me a positive n. Okay. Now, because again, I multiplied by a negative number, that means my sign is going to be flipped. Okay. Now, 2.5 is between 2 and 3 because that's the halfway mark. So I'm going to put 2.5 here. Hopefully you all can see that. All right. Now, I have an open circle. The circle is open because I only am dealing with a less than sign. I do not have an equal to under there. Okay, so that lets me know that 2.5 is not a part of that solution. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick a number. I'll go with 3 just because it's right next to it. So what I have here, 2.5 is less than 3. And that is a true statement. So because that's a true statement, that means anything to my right, to the right of 2.5 will suffice. All right. And that's a nice color. I might, you know what, I might just stick with it. That's a very nice color. All right. So number 9. Number 9 says 2 is less than z. The good news is we don't have to move anything. We don't have to switch anything because z is positive. Okay. Now, I am going to put an open circle. Hopefully y'all can see that. Put the open circle above the 2 because remember, that lets me know that 2 is not a solution or is not a part of the solution to that particular inequality. I'm going to pick a number. I'll pick 1 just for fun and giggles. So I'm going to say 2. And we all know that 2 is not less than 1. We know that 2 is greater than 1. But because this is not a true statement, so I'm going to put an X by it. Well, let me not put an X. I'm sorry. Okay, let me do a sad face. This is not a true statement. So because it's not a true statement, that means anything to the left of 2 would not make this a true inequality. So therefore, I am going to make my arrow, and any number, fraction, or decimal that's to the right of 2 would be my answer. So I could say 4 because 2 is less than 4. I could say 2 is less than 10. 2 is less than 13.5. 2 is less than 130 over 3. You know, so any of those fractions, okay, or decimals would work. So any, again, fraction, decimal, whole number that falls within this particular category would be a solution. And last but not least, all right, I'm going to go ahead and change it, y'all. I'm sorry. I mean, it is a pretty color, though. It really is. Let me use purple. Purple is the color of royalty. Okay, so here for number 10, I have C is less than or equal to, so I'm going to underline that, less than or equal to 4. All right, again, because C is already positive, I don't have to do anything else to it or with it. All right, now I am going to put a shaded circle over 4 because, again, 4 is represented by the letter C. So when I do this, I can say 4 is less than or equal to 4. And 4 is equal to 4. So that's the reason why 4, yet again, is a solution to this particular inequality. Now, do I go left or do I go right? Again, I'm going to pick a number. I don't know. Let me pick 11, just for fun and giggles. Okay, so I have 11. Now, we know 11 is not less than 4. We know 11 is the larger number. So because that is an n, because that is not true, this inequality is not true, that means any number to my right would not be true as well. So therefore, I am going to shade to the left. Okay. So this is the same worksheet that well, actually, it's not the same worksheet that I posted on yesterday's introduction video, but it's still, rules still apply the same, okay? So again, if you missed the video, the resources and information, I will leave it up in the video or maybe at the end, but you will have a link to it, so that way you can be comfortable and familiar with the signs, the inequalities, open circles versus closed circles or shaded circles, and how to graph them. Okay. Do I have any questions? I'm not sure if anyone is still on. I think. I'm sorry.
No, man.
Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do. All right. I'm going to keep this purple. Now we're going to talk about one-step inequalities. Oh, wait. Let me. All right, there we go. Okay, so Mr. McFadden, are you still with me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see the board?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me what I would do to solve this equation?
I'm not sure, Miss.
You're sounding a little muffled. I can't understand what you're saying.
I said I'm not sure, Miss.
Okay. So what I have here, I have M plus 17 is equal to 30. How would I go about solving this equation?
You subtract 17 from both sides.
Subtract 17 from both sides. You are absolutely correct. And when I do this, I am going to be left with M. Ooh, that's an ugly M. Is equal to 13. Now, we're going to take that same process, okay? Remember, math is repetitive. So again, you're going to see these things again, but it's going to be in a different format. All right, oops. All right, sorry about that handwriting, y'all. Should have typed it. All right, so now I'm going to take the same thing that I just wrote here, but I'm the same equation, but I'm going to turn it into an inequality. I have M plus 17 is less than 30. So my question is, how do I solve this inequality? Well, you would solve the inequality the same way you would as the. So I'm going to subtract 17, excuse me, from both sides. When I do this, I am left with M is less than 30. Now, equations you necessarily don't have to graph. Why? Because it has one number, and that one number is the only answer for the equation. Inequalities can have multiple solutions. Okay, so here's my nice little number line here. Let me do 27, 28, 29, 30. Do put 30 there. Okay, 31, 32, 33. Okay, doing it by threes. All right, I'll put 34 right there. All right, so based on my sign, I have an open circle and it's going to be over 30. Again, the reason why I have an open circle and it is over 30, it is simply because this lets me know that 30 is not a part of the solution. Okay. Now, to determine which way my line goes, does it go left or does it go right? What I need to do is pick a number. Okay. I'll just go ahead and pick 33. I know that 33 is not less than 30. But this is just the way for you to check yourself to make sure that you are actually on the right track and on the right path. Okay. So because I know 33 is not less than 30, I'm going to put a sad face here to let me know that that's not true. So that means any number to my right of 30 is not true. That means all numbers, fractions, decimals to the left of 30 is true. All right. All right. Now, are there any questions so far?
It's Hampton.
No.
Okay. Oh, okay. So, is that Robert that's with us this morning?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. How you doing? I'm happy that you're here. And again, uh, thank y'all so much. I just want to say I really appreciate you all. All right. All right. So
Excuse me.
now, I'm sorry. Is there a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
How do we get 30 negative 17 to 30?
Oh, okay. I wrote that wrong. My apologies. Yeah, it's just been a day.
Oh my
All right.
God.
So thank you for pointing that out to me,
All
Miss
right.
Filipina.
It's
All right.
okay, beautiful.
All right. So what we're
Yes,
going to do is we're just going to switch up these numbers here, but it still will remain the same. So let's see. I am going to do, let me just say 8, 9, 10. Well, no, let me just do this. 13. Okay, great. Okay. All right. So that's 12, 11, and 10. All right. So let's just say my number was 14. Again, I know that 14 is not less than 13. I know that. So again, because this is not a true statement, any number to the right of 13 would not count. Any number to the left would. So again, my apologies for anybody that's watching the playback video. Again, Ms. Philomena, thank you for catching that for me. I wasn't really paying attention, to be quite honest, but it happens from time to time. Okay. All right. So again, thank you so very much for that. But nonetheless, my solutions will still be the same. So I would have 12 is less than 13, 11 is less than 13, negative 13 is less than 13, because any number to the left of 13 will qualify as a solution to this inequality. Okay. All right. So now we're going to jump into two-step inequalities, and I'm going to show you why it's important for you to flip signs and all that other good stuff when you are multiplying and or dividing by negative numbers. All right. Let me go with green. Let me go with this color green. It's just a different color. All right. Now, what I wrote on the left side of the screen is an equation because I have an equal sign here. What I've wrote to the right on the screen is an inequality because I have a less than or equal to sign. Now, I just want you to simply pay attention to what it is that I'm doing. The $1,000,000 question is, did I do anything different from the equation to the inequality? Yes or no? Was that a no?
No.
Okay, so that's my whole point. If you can solve an equation, whether it be a one-step equation, a two-step equation, or a multi-step equation, then inequalities will not be an issue for you. Why? Because you're following the same steps. The only difference, equations have equal signs. Inequalities don't. And plus with inequalities, you have to graph them. All right? So equations you really don't have to graph unless it's a linear equation, but don't confuse yourselves, okay? Now, what I'm going to do, ooh, that line is crooked, but that is all right. All right, so I'm going to do 9, 10, 11. And remember, some number lines will be, different. As you can see, I'm only putting up the odd numbers here. All right. All right. So I have n is less than or equal to 11. So that simply means that I need to find a number that's going to be to make this statement true. So I'm going to pick, I'll just pick 10 just for the fun of it. So I'm going to substitute 10 for the letter N. 10 is less than or equal to 11. That is a true statement. Now, I have a shaded circle. The reason why I have a shaded circle again is because I am dealing with an equal to sign under my inequality, under my less than sign. So this lets me know that 11 is a part of the solution. Okay. And because 10 made this inequality true, that lets me know that any number to the left of 11 will also make this inequality true. Any decimal, any fraction, any negative number, all of that is going to be make rather my inequality true. All right. All right. So again, how do we feel so far? Do we feel okay? Is this simple? Is this easy?
It's okay.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. What about you, Robert, if you're still with us?
Yep.
Okay. And Mr. McFadden, I'm not sure if you're still with us, but how do you feel so far?
I'm getting there.
You said you're getting there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. Now remember, if you need a refresher on how to solve one-step equations and two-step equations, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe I have those videos in my Freebie Friday playlist. I'll be sure to leave all of the links and all the playlists that you need to help yourself at the end of this video. Okay, I'm really excited because I know how to add those types of things now. So I'm really happy about that. All right. Okay. Now, all right, we're moving through very, very quickly. Hopefully, I will be finished within the next 10 minutes with this video. All right, and I will be emailing you all the worksheets that will accompany this video. So that way you all can have practice and you can check the answers for yourself. What color? Ooh, okay, that color is a little different. I think I'm going to go with that. All right. Um, okay. Again, I am going to write the same numbers. The difference is I wrote one as an equation and I wrote one as an inequality. Can anybody tell me what kind of problems these are? Okay. I probably should have typed it. These are multiplication problems. It is so important that you know how to recognize what kind of problems you're working with. Otherwise, it may yield as a situation for you, and it may be deemed as a challenge. So please remember that anytime you have a number and a letter put together and it's equal to something, that is multiplication. This is a multiplication inequality. Why? Because again, we have the inequality sign. Now, again, I just want you to watch and see what I do. All right. So again, I asked the question, did I do anything different from this equation to this inequality? Did I do anything different?
How did you get -5?
Excuse me, Miss Hanson.
Okay, give me 1 second, Miss Philomena. I heard you, Mr. McFadden, but I didn't hear you.
So how did you get -5?
I got -5 because 55, a positive number divided by a negative number gives me a negative.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
The question is something.
Yes, Miss Philomena.
I thought you said this kind of equation, you have to identify it and it is multiplication, but you are going on division now. So how can I?
Okay, so remember, because this is a multiplication problem, I have to do the inverse operation, which is division, to find my answer. Okay, so again, it is very important that you all make sure that you know what kind of problems that you're dealing with, the types of problems. Because again, if you are not sure, then that may yield as a situation for you. Okay. Okay. Now, let me look at this. Let's look at this one for a quick second. Remember, when you are dividing by a negative number, in this instance, I divided by a negative number here because I had negative 11p is greater than 55. I divided both sides by 11. Because I divided by a negative number, I have to flip my sign from a greater than to less than, and my answer is still -5. Okay, so what are we reinforcing here? We are reinforcing integers. Okay, so again, you must make sure that your integers, your knowledge of integers are very, very strong and that you're confident in them. Otherwise, again, this may look challenging or it may become challenging to you. Okay, so now I now have p is less than -5. Now remember, with equations, you don't have to graph them, so we good over here. That's it. But on the other hand, we have to graph them to see. Okay. Let me do -7. Let me do -6. Let me do -5. -4. -3. -2. -1. And 0. And then I have 1, 2. All right, 1, 2. All right. So remember, number lines go on for forever. That's why they have the arrows, and I don't have the time nor the capacity to be writing numbers all day, okay? So based on my sign here, because my sign is a less than sign, I am going to have an open circle over my number 5. I'm sorry, my -5, excuse me. This is, again, going to let me know that -5 is not a part of this solution. It's just not. Okay. Now, I am going to pick a number. I'll pick 0. So I know that 0 is not less than 5. 0 is not less than -5, excuse me. Okay. Because remember, all positive numbers are greater than negative numbers. So this is not a true statement. So because that's not true, that lets me know that any number to the left, I'm sorry, not left, excuse me, to the right of -5 would not be true. So therefore, if I pick, let's say -6, -6 is less than -5. The reason why -6 is less than -5 is because if I were to compare these two numbers, -5 is closest to 0. So remember, if you're comparing two negative numbers, look at the negative numbers and figure out which one is closest to 0. If that number is closest to 0, that is what would make that number the largest number. Okay? So -7, -12, -3,467,000 to the -15th power. All of those numbers, decimals, and fractions would make this inequality true. Ooh, All right. Now, I have time for one more example as it relates to flipping the sign when you are dividing and or multiplying by a negative number. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is also in the properties of inequalities handout that I gave you all, or emailed you all on yesterday. If you did not get it, please refer back to the video from yesterday. A link is in the pinned comment section, so you can click on it, print it if you have access to a printer, download it to your phone or your computer, and that way you can have it as well. All right, I'm going to do one more and then class will be dismissed. All right, we're going to keep the same color here because that is a very nice looking blue, if I say so myself. All righty then. Okay. Oh, okay. Let me go with A. All right. All right. Now, again, this is my equation over here. This is my inequality. These types of problems are division problems. They are division problems because they have a fraction. Remember, fractions are nothing more than division problems. Therefore, these are division problems. Woo. So, because these problems are division, I must do the inverse operation to solve them, which is multiplication. So I am going to multiply these two numbers together. I'm going to multiply these two numbers together. When I do that, I have A is equal to negative 40. A positive times a negative gives me a negative. Again, this is reinforcing integers. Now with this inequality, because I am multiplying by a negative number, that means this sign is going to be flipped from a greater than sign to a less than sign. So my answer here is going to be A is less than negative 40. Okay. All right. All right. So I am going to do negative 42, negative 41, negative 40, negative 39, and I'll do one more number because I'm running out of space. Negative 38. Now, I have, again, because I'm only dealing with a less than sign, it doesn't have a line under there. My circle is going to be open over negative 40. Again, the reason why is open over negative 40 is because that lets me know that negative 40 is not a part of the solution. Okay, negative 40 is not a part of my solution. Now, I'm going to pick a number. I will pick negative 38. Just because, you know, just because. Now, the question I have is negative 38 less than negative 40? Yes or no?
No.
Nope.
No, you're absolutely right. Negative 38 is not less than negative 40. Because again, if I were to look and compare negative 40 to negative 38, negative 38 is closest to zero, even though you don't see it on my number line here because I didn't have, I don't have time to write it out. But negative 38 is closest to zero. So this would not be a true statement. So this lets me know that negative 39 is not a solution either. So that means all my numbers to the left of negative 40 would be true. All my decimals and all that good stuff too. All right. So again, I'll pick another number from the left so that way you can see it. I'll pick negative 42. Negative 42 is less than negative 40. Because again, when I compare negative 42 to negative 40, negative 40 is closest to zero than negative 42. Okay, so does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, this is what I'm going to do because we have 3 minutes left, and I want to make sure that you all get enough practice in as possible. All right. I will be emailing you all a worksheet that deals with one step inequalities. We're going to take this piece by piece. Okay. One step inequalities only, and you are going to solve and graph them, and we are going to go over a couple of those problems tomorrow. Then we are going to jump into reviewing two-step inequalities as well as multi-step inequalities. So again, I will end it by saying this. If you are very strong in solving equations, inequalities will not be an issue for you. As far as graphing them is concerned, we can continue to practice on those as well. Because again, I want to be sure that you all are confident and in graphing inequalities. Solving inequalities, wonderful, but graphing them can be a headache. So again, we are going to spend the remainder of this week dealing with nothing but inequalities. If you have not had the opportunity to do so, please make sure that you go back and rewatch the part one video, an introduction to inequalities, so that way you can understand how these things work. Okay. So again, I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share. Okay, and I'm going to put my toolbar down. Wow. All right. So again, thank you all so very much for joining me this morning. I will be sure to email you all the information. If you're watching this as a playback video, it will be pinned in my comment section. So please be sure that you do that. Also, again, I will leave the fundamentals playlist videos, I think over here. And I'll also leave the videos for the Freebie Friday videos as it relates to one step, two step equations. I'll leave it somewhere over here or somewhere. You'll see it at the end. Don't worry. Okay. So make sure that you click on those videos. Make sure you take good notes and that you practice, do your assignments, and study, study, study. Again, the testing centers, I believe they are going to be opening back sometime in July. I do not know the exact date. Once I get the exact date, stay tuned and look out for a video on it because I will be making that announcement once I get the information. Okay, but until then, use your time wisely. Study, study, study. Get these things down packed because I guarantee you when the floodgates of the testing centers open, I need you to be in there with your money paid, and I need you all to pass these tests in one big whop the very first time. That's what I need. Okay. All right. So if there are no other questions, no other comments, concerns. All right. Well, no news is good news to me. So I pray that you all continue to be blessed, continue to stay safe. I'm praying for you and your families as well. So until tomorrow, Miss Hampton loves you. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And until then,
Thank you, Miss Hampton.
bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Philomena.
Thank you, Ms. Hampton.
You're very welcome, Mr. McFadden.
I'm trying to be ready soon as they open up. So
Oh, you will be. Don't worry.